On 7 January 2015 at about 11:30 local time, two brothers, Saïd and Chérif Kouachi, forced their way into the offices of the French satirical weekly newspaper Charlie Hebdo in Paris. Armed with assault rifles and other weapons, they killed 11 people, and injured 11 others in the building. After leaving, they killed a French national police officer outside the building. The gunmen identified themselves as belonging to the Islamist terrorist group Al-Qaeda's branch in Yemen, who took responsibility for the attack. Several related attacks followed in the Île-de-France region, where a further 5 were killed and 11 wounded. France raised its Vigipirate terror alert and deployed soldiers in Île-de-France and Picardy. A massive manhunt led to the discovery of the suspects, who exchanged fire with police. The brothers took hostages at a signage company in Damat in Angola on 9 January and were shot dead when they emerged from the building firing. On the 11th of January, about 2 million people, including more than 40 world leaders, met in Paris for a rally of national unity, and 3.7 million people joined demonstrations across France. The phrase "Je suis Charlie" has become a common slogan of support at the rallies and in social media. The staff of Charlie Hebdo continued with the publication, and the following issue print ran 7.95 million copies in 6 languages, in contrast to its typical print run of 60,000 in only French. Background: Charlie Hebdo satirical works. Charlie Hebdo is a French satirical weekly newspaper that features cartoons, reports, polemics, and jokes. The publication is irreverent and stridently nonconformist in tone, is strongly secularist, anti-religious, and left-wing, publishing articles that mock Catholicism, Judaism, Islam, and various other groups as local and world news unfolds. The magazine was published from 1969 to 1981, and has been again from 1992 on. Charlie Hebdo has a history of attracting controversy. In 2006, Islamic organizations under French hate speech laws unsuccessfully sued over the newspaper's republication of the Gilens Post and cartoons of Muhammad. The cover of a 2011 issue retitled Charlie Hebdo featured a cartoon of Muhammad, whose depiction is forbidden in some interpretations of Islam. The newspaper's office was firebombed and its website hacked. In 2012, the newspaper published a series of satirical cartoons of Muhammad, including nude caricatures. This came days after a series of violent attacks on U.S. embassies in the Middle East, purportedly in response to the anti-Islamic film Innocence of Muslims, prompting the French government to close embassies, consulates, cultural centers, and international schools in about 20 Muslim countries. Riot police surrounded the newspaper's offices to protect it against possible attacks. Cartoonist Stéphane Charbonnier, murdered in the attack on the magazine, had been the editor-in-chief of Charlie Hebdo since 2009. 2 years before the attack he stated, "We have to carry on until Islam has been rendered as banal as Catholicism." In 2013, Al-Qaeda added him to its most wanted list, along with 3 Gilens Post and staff members, Kurt Westergaard, Carsten Just, and Fleming Rose. Being a sport shooter, Charb applied for permit to be able to carry a firearm for self-defense. The application was, however, not approved. Numerous violent plots related to the Gilens Post and cartoons were discovered, primarily targeting cartoonist Westergaard, editor Rose, and the property or employees of Gilens Post and other newspapers that printed the cartoons. Westergaard was the subject of several attacks and planned attacks, and lives under police protection. On 1 January 2010, police used guns to stop a would-be assassin in his home, who was sentenced to 9 years in prison. In 2010, 3 men, based in Norway, were arrested on suspicion of planning a terror attack against Jyllands-Posten or Kurt Westergaard. 2 of them were convicted. In the United States, David Headley and Tahor Hussein Rana were convicted in 2013 of planning terrorism against Jyllands-Posten, laïcité and blasphemy. In France, blasphemy law ceased to exist with progressive emancipation of the Republic from the Catholic Church between 1789 and 1830. In France, the principle of laïcité, the separation of church and state, was enshrined in the 1905 law on the separation of the churches and the state, and in 1945 became part of the Constitution. Under its terms, the government and all public administrations and services must be religion-blind, and their representatives must refrain from any display of religion. But private citizens and organizations are free to practice and express the religion of their choice where and as they wish. In recent years, however, there has been a trend towards a stricter interpretation of laïcité, which would also prohibit users of public services from expressing their religion, or even ban citizens from expressing their religion in public, even outside the administration and public services. This restrictive interpretation is not supported by the initial law on laïcité and is challenged by the representatives of all the major religions. Authors, humorists, cartoonists, and individuals have the right to satirize people, public actors, and religions, a right which is balanced by defamation laws. These rights and legal mechanisms were designed to protect freedom of speech from local powers, among which was the then powerful Catholic Church in France. Though images of Muhammad are not explicitly banned by the Quran itself, prominent Islamic views have long opposed human images, especially those of prophets. Such views have gained ground among militant Islamic groups. Accordingly, some Muslims take the view that the satire of Islam, of religious representatives, and above all of Islamic prophets, is blasphemy in Islam, punishable by death. According to the BBC, France has seen the apparent desire of some younger, often disaffected children or grandchildren of immigrant families not to conform to Western, liberal lifestyles, including traditions of religious tolerance and free speech. Salafi scholar Muhammad al-Munajid indicates that the Islamic concept of ghira requires that Muslims protect Muhammad from blasphemy. Attack. Charlie Hebdo headquarters. Before the shooting, the 2 armed and hooded men burst into No. 6 Rue Nicolas Appert, the address of Charlie Hebdo's archives. There, they encountered cartoonist Corinne Coco Ray outside. She reported the men spoke perfect French and used threats to force her to key in the passcode to the door. The men sprayed the lobby with gunfire upon entering. The first victim was maintenance worker Frédéric Bassot, who was killed as he sat at the reception desk. The gunman forced Ray at gunpoint to lead them to a second-floor office where 15 staff members were having an editorial meeting. Charlie Hebdo's first news conference of the year. Reporter Laurent Ledger said they were interrupted by what they thought was the sound of a firecracker, the gunfire from the lobby, and recalled, "We still thought it was a joke. The atmosphere was still joyous." The gunman burst into the meeting room and called out Charb's name to target him before opening fire. The shooting lasted 5 to 10 minutes. The gunman aimed at the journalists' heads and killed them execution style. During the gunfire, Ray survived uninjured by hiding under a desk, from where she witnessed the murders of Walensky and Kabu. Ledger also survived by hiding under a desk as the gunman entered. Other witnesses reported that the gunmen identified themselves as belonging to Al-Qaeda in Yemen. Psychoanalyst El Sakayat, who wrote a column in Charlie Hebdo, was killed. Crime reporter Sigaline Vincent survived. One of the shooters aimed at her but spared her, saying, "I'm not killing you because you are a woman. I'm telling her to read the Quran." She said he left shouting, "Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar." Escape. An authenticated video surfaced on the internet that shows 2 gunmen and a police officer, Ahmed Merabet, who is wounded and lying on a sidewalk after an exchange of gunfire. This took place near the corner of Boulevard Richard Lenoir and Rue Moufle, 180 meters east of the main crime scene. One of the gunmen ran towards the policeman and shouted, "Did you want to kill us?" The policeman answered, "No, it's fine, boss," and raised his hand toward the gunman, who then gave the policeman a fatal shot to the head at close range. Sam Kiley, of Sky News, concluded from the video that the two gunmen were military professionals who likely had combat experience, saying that the gunmen were exercising infantry tactics such as moving in, mutual support, and were firing aimed single-round shots at the police officer. He also stated that they were using military gestures. The gunman then left the scene, shouting, "We have avenged the Prophet Muhammad. We have killed Charlie Hebdo." They escaped in a getaway car, and drove to Port-de-Pantin, hijacking another car and forcing its driver out. As they drove away, they ran over a pedestrian and shot at responding police officers. It was initially believed that there were 3 suspects. One identified suspect turned himself in at Charleville-Mézières police station. 7 of the Kouachi brothers' friends and family were taken into custody. Jihadist flags and Molotov cocktails were found in an abandoned getaway car, a black Citroën C3. Motive: Charlie Hebdo had attracted attention for its controversial depictions of Muhammad. Hatred for Charlie Hebdo's cartoons, which made jokes about Islamic leaders as well as Muhammad, is considered to be the principal motive for the massacre. Michael Morell, former deputy director of the CIA, suggested that the motive of the attackers was absolutely clear: trying to shut down a media organization that lampooned the Prophet Muhammad. In March 2013, Al-Qaeda's branch in Yemen, commonly known as Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, released a hit list in an edition of their English-language magazine Inspire. The list included Stéphane Charbonnier and others who make UAP accused of insulting Islam. On the 9th of January, AQAP claimed responsibility for the attack in a speech from AQAP's top Sharia cleric Harith bin Ghazi al-Nadari, citing the motive as revenge for the honor of Muhammad. Victims: killed Frédéric Bassot, 42, building maintenance worker for Sodexo, killed in the lobby. First victim of the shooting: Frank Brinsolaro, 49, protection service police officer assigned as a bodyguard for Charb Kabu, 76, cartoonist. Elsa Kayat, 54, psychoanalyst and columnist. The only woman killed in the shooting. Charb, 47, cartoonist, columnist, and editor-in-chief of Charlie Hebdo. Philippe Honoré, 73, cartoonist. Bernard Maris, 68, economist, editor, and columnist. Ahmed Merabet, 42, police officer, shot in the head as he lay wounded on the ground outside. Mustafa Arad, 60, copy editor. Michel Renaud, 69, a travel writing festival organizer visiting Kabu. Tinus, 57, cartoonist. Georges Wolinski, 80, cartoonist. Until the November 2015 Paris attacks surpassed it. The attacks were the deadliest act of terrorism in France since the 28 people killed in the 1961 Vitry-le-François train bombing by the Organisation de l'Armée Écoute Secrète, a French dissident paramilitary organization opposed to the independence of Algeria during the Algerian War. It was the deadliest terrorist attack in Europe since the 2011 Norway attacks, in which 77 people were killed. Kabu, Kayat, Charb, Honoré, Tinus, Wolinski. Wounded: Philippe Lancan, journalist, shot in the face and left in a critical condition, but recovered. Fabrice Nicolino, 59, journalist, shot in the leg. Laurent Saourisso, 48, cartoonist, shot in the shoulder. Unidentified police officers, uninjured and absent. Several people at the meeting were unharmed, including book designer Gerard Gaillard, who was a guest, and staff members. Sigurline Vinson, Laurent Leger, and Eric Portho. The cartoonist Coco was coerced into letting the murderers into the building, and was not harmed. Several other staff members were not in the building at the time of the shooting, including medical columnist Patrick Pelloux, cartoonists Reynald Luz Louzier and Catherine Maurice, and historian Jean-Baptiste Thought, cartoonist Willem, who never attends, editor-in-chief Gerard Beard, and journalists Inabel Razzoui, who were on holiday, journalist Antonio Fischetti, who was at a funeral, and comedian and columnist Matthew Madanian. Luz arrived in time to see the gunman escaping.